The topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
Welcome to my radio and TV show, Debi Changes Lives. I'm Debi, your certified holistic health coach. I revitalize people's lives by helping them identify the root causes of their health issues and create a custom, natural, holistic strategy to address them in the areas of mind, body, and soul. As a health coach, I'm not allowed to say that I heal, treat, cure, prevent, or diagnose any diseases. I can certainly make your body more efficient by reducing symptoms. You'll feel better, be more productive, and enjoy life a whole lot more. Is intermittent fasting a fad? No, it's popular because it actually works. Intermittent fasting will repair your cells, aids your gut, gives you mental clarity, and uplifts your mood. Why fast is the intermittent fasting program that does all that and gets your cells and body humming and in turn boosts your metabolism. It's rich with high-dense nutrition and nutrients and a program with exercises and recipes. Its components are a natural part of all my programs and can be easily done by itself. You're welcome to reach out to me for more details on it and my coaching programs and my complimentary consultation link at Debi Changes Lives, DEBICHANGES LIV as in Victor ES.com/link LINKTREE. And as a certified holistic health coach, I revitalize people's lives in many areas of health. I guide them in clean, toxic-free food, high-quality nutritional nutrients. And my coaching is for optimizing your health, releasing weight efficiently, and enhance your mindset. You'll see and feel the differences with my coaching. And I am a strong advocate of gut health. I feel the gut is the core of our well-being. 70% of our immunity is in the gut. There is a brain-gut connection. And did you know that the oral microbiome is just as important? Well, it is. Today on my show, I'm excited to have Dr. Joanne Conaway, a naturopathic physician, and she's back again. She is an internationally acclaimed speaker that links digestive health to immunity and hormone issues. In her book, Why is America So Sick? Dr. Joanne Conaway's background includes a Bachelor of Science degree in nursing in 1976. She was a nurse involved in ER, trauma, operating room, critical care, infection control, cardiac care, nursing and education and management, and has spent several years specializing as a nutritional support coach. There, she cared for people who could not eat by mouth anymore, receiving their nutrition intravenously by a feeding tube. This experience sparked her passion for helping people understand the importance of a healthy diet and a healthy digestive system. Dr. Joanne Conaway is a retired lieutenant colonel, having spent 20 years in the U.S. Air Force and Reserves, many of those years as an aeromedical evacuation nurse, being uncomfortable for caring for patients following the conventional mainstream model. After learning so much about the natural approach, Dr. Conaway retired from nursing and went back to school and became a naturopathic physician. We will be exposing oral health. It's all in your mouth, affecting many body systems. So let's welcome Dr. Joanne Conaway, a naturopathic physician. Dr. Conaway, thank you for coming back to my show.
Oh, Debi, I'm delighted to be back with you. It's always so much fun. And I really enjoy the way you present the information you present. So I'm thrilled to be back here with you.
Oh, thank you. That's a wonderful compliment. Well, We're going to be talking about the oral microbiome, as you know, and what is the oral microbiome exactly for our audience, and why is it so important for overall health?
Well, it's really interesting because you know that I have focused on the gut for probably about 28 years now, maybe even longer than that. And the gut microbiome has become more popular as the years have gone on. We really started to focus on and learn about the gut microbiome probably 40, 50 years ago. Interestingly enough, the oral microbiome has only been studied for about the last 20 years. So, kind of way behind, and in my opinion, maybe backward in thinking, because whenever I talk about the gut, I talk about the fact that the gut begins in the mouth. But we have not always known and understood that we have a microbiome in the mouth, very similar to the microbiome that we have in the gut. In fact, there's about a 45% overlap of certain strains of bacteria in the mouth being the same as strains of bacteria in the gut. So think about it. When we talk about the gut, how does anything get there? Well, it comes in through the mouth, down the esophagus, into the stomach, and into the intestines. So when we talk about the mouth microbiome, and the actual opening to the gut, we're talking about that environment where we see, again, bacteria. Now, for many, many years, we were taught that you don't want bacteria in the mouth. Well, now what we know is that is not true. And about 90% of the bacteria that are in your mouth are actually there for a reason. They serve a purpose. So, what's the purpose of the microbiome in the mouth? Well, it helps to maintain homeostasis within the mouth. We talk about homeostasis being that balance. Everything needs to be in balance. And if a person has a good, healthy balance, they are considered to have healthy homeostasis. So we have bacteria that are good. We have bacteria that are bad. We have those in various microbiomes throughout the body. Okay. We have a microbiome in our eyes, a microbiome on our skin. We have microbiomes everywhere. Okay. But in the mouth, we have, again, some 700 different strains of bacteria that have been isolated, a whole lot of them, but the majority of them are good bacteria and not bad bacteria. So that theory of killing all the bacteria in your mouth is very unhealthy, just like killing all the bacteria in your gut is also very unhealthy. The other thing that is a purpose of the oral microbiome is the fact that it will, in fact, help to protect our mouth from disease-causing pathogens. So what does that mean? That means that we've got lots of bacteria that are good and healthy that help us keep our mouths good and healthy. They also help to transport oxygen into the tissues in the mouth. They help to remineralize the teeth. They help to promote well-being in every other part of the body. It's fascinating because when I first started to delve into this research, one of the first things I heard was that 90% of chronic disease might be linked to an unhealthy mouth.
Wow.
And we have not always heard that, okay?
No.
But the research is showing us that probably 90% of chronic disease can be linked to what goes on in the mouth. So the oral microbiome, it's just that compilation of bacteria, parasites, fungi, all of those things that are living in the mouth together. And if we are keeping our oral microbiome healthy, those bacteria will help to keep us healthy.
That's amazing. I didn't realize 90% that can cause chronic diseases. That's kind of scary.
But again, you have to think about how do things get into the body. They
Yeah.
get into the body through the respiratory system. They get into the body through the skin. But primarily, I mean, when we talk about the things that enter the body, the water, the food, the medicines, the majority of those things come through the mouth.
Yeah. Yeah. So this bacteria that in the mouth actually affects our other, parts of our body. Is there anything that significantly is bad, how it affects other parts of our body?
Well, there are several bacteria that are unhealthy bacteria, and those bacteria get into the circulation. How do they do that? Well, the majority of the bacteria in the mouth live in the crevices between the teeth. And if you don't have good, healthy gums, if you have a breakdown of the gum tissue, then those organisms enter the vascular system very readily from the mouth to the vascular system. If you look at the tooth structure, for example, and you look at the gum structure, you're supposed to have nice, tight seals around your teeth. If you don't, if you have a gingivitis, if you have bleeding gums, if you have any breakdown of the tissue at all, the bacteria can leave the mouth and enter the circulation. And what we found is it can impact several other systems in the body. There's a lot of research, for example, being done with respect to certain bacteria causing cardiovascular issues, certain bacteria possibly causing Alzheimer's, certain bacteria that impact us in terms of diabetes and liver disease and various other different diseases. So a lot like the gut microbiome, which when we first started to learn about it, they started to do a lot of research and link it to other areas of the body. The mouth microbiome the same way now. We are seeing the link between or oral bacteria and the health of the rest of the body.
Wow. So it impacts your liver.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Well, when you think about it, everything that comes into the body gets to the liver. Okay, the liver is one of the major detox organs. So what they've actually learned in the research is that sometimes unhealthy bacteria impact good, healthy liver function.
So if people drink alcohol, or let's say they eat a lot of processed foods, they're at more of a risk?
Very much so. People ask me all the time, well, what can I do to keep my oral microbiome healthy? And you've heard me say it over and over again. My mantra is healthy diet, healthy diet, healthy diet. And why is that? Well, what we know is that a healthy diet will feed the good, healthy bacteria. An unhealthy diet, or a diet that's loaded with preservatives, sugar, all of those things, they're going to feed the unhealthy bacteria and allow for the unhealthy bacteria to kind of get out of control. So just as with the gut microbiome and healthy diet, the oral microbiome is no different. And so what does that mean in terms of what can I eat? Well, I recommend that you eat whole foods, not prepackaged and processed foods. I recommend that you stay away from sugars, refined sugars. Absolutely stay away from refined sugars. Now, natural sugars in the form of our fruits and vegetables, especially good organic fruits and vegetables, those good healthy sugars are healthy for the body and they're healthy for the bacteria. But when you start introducing things that are the refined sugars, you're going to get into trouble, just like you get into trouble if you're giving your gut those unhealthy foods.
That makes a lot of sense. And even though I remember learning from you that the bacteria communicates to each other.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This is one of the more fascinating things that we've learned in the last couple of decades is how bacteria actually do communicate. Now, first, let's start with the understanding that bacteria replicate very, very quickly, much more quickly than we can even imagine. Okay. But what we've learned is not only do they replicate very quickly, but bacteria talk to each other. Bacteria can talk to each other within their own species. They can talk to each other outside their own species. They can talk to viruses. And this is all referred to as quorum sensing. And what happens with quorum sensing is as bacteria replicate, they also replicate what we call chemical messengers or autoinducers. And these autoinducers begin to replicate. And as all this replication is going on, these bacteria come together as a community. And as a community, they can do various different things. They can create bioluminescence, for example. They can create biofilms. They can increase virulence. So it's not enough to say we have bacteria, but what we now realize is we have bacteria, and these bacteria communicate with each other and can create all of these environments and come together collectively as a whole and make a decision about what to do.
Oh, that's
It's
horrible. That can be really horrible in some cases. But that's how they multiply faster, right?
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And talking to each other is something that, people say, oh, that's crazy. No, it's not. They actually do communicate with each other.
Oh, wow. Now, how is the oral microbiome, the gut microbiome connected, and why is it significant? And does these different microbiome bacteria talk to each other, throughout the system? And
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, there's about a 45% overlap. Okay. So many of the bacteria in the mouth are different from what's in the gut, but many of the bacteria in the mouth are the same as the bacteria in the gut. But again, think about it like this. Every time you swallow, and how many times a day do you swallow? Okay. Every time you swallow, you're swallowing bacteria from the mouth down into the gut. Okay. Now, some of those bacteria don't make it past the hydrochloric acid in the stomach. So they're not problematic. They're not something that would be concerning in any way. But many of them do just go right on down the intestinal tract and do what they do. So when we look at the oral microbiome and compare it to the gut microbiome, we know that the gut microbiome is trillions of organisms collectively doing their thing in the gut. The oral microbiome is trillions of bacteria collectively doing their thing in the mouth. And linking the two together, one of the things that we know, as you pointed out, 70 to 75% of our immunity is in our gut. Okay. And link that to the fact that 90% of chronic disease can be linked to bacteria and an unhealthy mouth. Whoa, is it any wonder we're not healthy? And especially when you stop and think about how we have looked at dentistry for all these years.
Mm-hmm.
It's only in the last several years that we've started to pay attention to the fact that no, we do not need to use an alcohol mouthwash. We do not need to use a chlorhexidine mouthwash. We do not need to kill off all the bacteria. And if we are killing off all the bacteria, that causes problems. For so many years, we talked about using those antibacterial mouthwashes to kill off the bacteria to give you fresh breath. Well,
Yes.
what we now know is when you kill off all the bacteria, you're not going to have fresh breath. You may have fresh breath for a few minutes after using that mouthwash, but you're killing off the bacteria that help to maintain healthy breath. So, people will say to me, well, how do I know I have a problem with my microbiome? How do I know that there's an issue with my oral microbiome? Well, first and foremost, bad breath. If you have consistent bad breath, then there's something going on. There's usually an overgrowth of bad bacteria. Perhaps you've got some gingivitis, periodontitis, something going on in your mouth that's going to cause that kind of an issue or a problem. Excuse me. If you're someone who has repeated ulcerations that don't seem to heal right away. Now, we all get ulcerations from time to time, but they're usually gone in about a week to 10 days. We don't think too much about it. They're irritating while we have them, but they go away. But what if you have them and they don't go away? That could be a real indicator that your oral microbiome needs a little bit of help. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There are other things like if you have issues or problems with oral thrush or any other fungal infections, just like in the gut, you don't have enough good, healthy bacteria. So the yeast or fungal bacteria or fungal yeast in the mouth begin to overgrow. And so many people have chronic problems with fungal yeast type infections. If you have bleeding gums, if you have periodontitis, if you have, people say, oh, my gums always bleed when I brush my teeth. Well, they shouldn't.
No, they shouldn't.
You shouldn't have bleeding gums when you're brushing your teeth. And if you have bleeding gums when you're brushing your teeth, what that indicates to you is that you have a breakdown of the tissue in the mouth. What's causing that breakdown is often the imbalance. And so, it's not okay to say, oh, my gums bleed a little when I floss, or my gums bleed a little when I brush my teeth. They shouldn't be bleeding when you floss and brush your teeth. And speaking of flossing, something I do not want to forget to mention, one of the things that has become very popular is flossing with those little floss sticks and you stick them down between your teeth and that's probably not the best, healthiest way to floss, because every time that snaps down between your teeth, it actually irritates your gum and can actually cause a very minor cut in your gums that can cause bleeding. If you're going to floss, and I recommend that everybody flosses twice a day, but if you're going to floss, use the old-fashioned standard method of flossing. Don't be jamming those floss picks down in between your teeth, because it's not a healthy thing to do.
No, it isn't. And you can damage your gums, and it hurts, So,
It does. It does. Yeah, if you've ever used them, you know that it can hurt for sure.
yeah, that's why, I avoid that. But anyway, now when it comes to oral health, how does oral health affect the cardiovascular system, metabolic and cognitive system? Because you kind of just brushed upon that.
Yeah, it's interesting when we think about it. And again, we've learned this in the last couple of decades, but bacteria that are in our mouth can enter the vascular system. If they are unhealthy bacteria, they can cause problems. And there are some less desirable bacteria that live in the mouth. And people say, well, why are they even there? Well, you know what? That's one of those why questions that I've never found the good answer for. Okay. Why they're there, I don't know. I think they are probably there to help to encourage some of the good bacteria to do what they're supposed to do to once again maintain homeostasis. But if you're someone who doesn't take care of their mouth, and so you have an overgrowth or proliferation of these unhealthy mouth bacteria, they're going to enter the circulation. And so what happens when that happens is they create a situation in your body called oxidative stress, inflammation, any of those things that we can link to toxins and poisons and things that our bodies don't want. So when we look at certain diseases, I can remember when the information first came out many years back, probably 2008, maybe, talking about the link between oral bacteria and cardiovascular system health. And I can remember when that first came out, I did a lot of cardiovascular system lectures, and it became a very popular question. Can the bacteria in my mouth impact the cardiovascular system? So at the time, it was fascinating, because when you went out and did the research, what you found was just as many studies saying, yes, there was an impact, and just as many of the studies out there saying that there's not conclusive evidence. We really don't know that there is truly an impact. And what we now know is, yes, there is. And there have been repeated studies done that have actually linked certain bacteria to different types of cardiovascular issues. The other big thing is a study that came out just a couple of years ago now, and it was regarding one of the less desirable bacteria in the mouth, and it was Porphyromonas gingivalis. Okay, we call it PG, makes it easier. Okay, and so the study that came out, if you read the study, and if you would go out and you did a deep dive in the research and read the study, you were reading repeatedly the same study over and over and over again. It was just published under different headings. Okay, and what it was saying was that not only does this bacteria cause Alzheimer's disease, but there's also the release of gingipanes, and I'm not going to get into all the biochemical stuff around that. But when we talk about the gingipanes and the issues surrounding this particular bacteria and Alzheimer's, some of the research sounded pretty conclusive. And of course, we've been looking for the answer to Alzheimer's disease for many, many years. There are many theories as to why we have Alzheimer's disease. We've been looking for the answer for many years. So when these studies first came out, oh, wow, this was it. We now have found the cause. Well, interestingly enough, the majority of the research and the studies that were published by a company who actually was creating a drug to help to negate the gingipanes. Okay. So again, you have to, whenever you hear stuff like this, you have to do a deep dive. And what they found was maybe not so fast. But the other side of the coin is perhaps it's not PG, but could it be any other bacteria or some other types of bacteria getting into the circulation, getting into the brain, and causing the issues of plaque buildup in the brain? Certainly it could. And so the majority of researchers that have taken a deep dive and really looked at this whole thing say that PG could in fact be a cause, but it is probably not the cause.
Okay.
And the other thing that was found in that research was that many people who have this type of bacteria in their systems, and it's known to be there, they have amyloid plaques in the brain thought to perhaps be caused by this PG, and yet they have perfect cognitive function. So there's so much in the research, but people, again, we're jumping on board with, oh, we found the cause of Alzheimer's disease, which unfortunately is not true. We have not yet found the cause, and there are several theories and things that I think may in fact be the cause of Alzheimer's disease. But again, as those bacteria that are unhealthy bacteria enter the circulation and get into the body, they go throughout the circulation and can impact various different parts of the body in various different ways. And it all gets back to that oxidative stress, free radical damage, inflammation, all of those things that we know are chronic illness issues. You know, so many people say, well, all chronic illness is due to inflammation. Well, there's a lot linking chronic illness to inflammation, but how does the inflammation start? What is the cause of the inflammation? And so many times it's a toxin or a poison. And in the case of unhealthy bacteria, the body identifies that as a toxin or a poison, and we go after it. And so the body goes through its normal response. Inflammation is part of that normal response.
And it slows down the metabolism as well. I mean, it makes it harder for people to release weight when they have so much inflammation.
So much inflammation due to so many toxins.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Now, we've gotten some questions from the audience.
Okay.
What are your thoughts about oil pulling?
You know, there are two schools of thought. Some people say, it doesn't matter. It doesn't cause anything good to happen. I don't necessarily agree. I do believe that oil pulling can be very healthy. Most people don't do it correctly. Most people take a tablespoon or so of coconut oil. That's one of the more popular oil pulling oils. And they'll stick it in their mouth and they'll slosh it around their teeth for a couple of minutes and it's good to go. If you're going to do true oil pulling and get the benefit of the oil, you need to do it for about 20 minutes. And a lot of people find that they just can't put that much time into taking care of their teeth. But oil pulling has, in fact, proven to be very helpful. It helps to soothe tissue. Some people claim that it helps to whiten teeth. It helps to do various different things in the mouth. And oil pulling, as I said, one of the more common oils that we use is coconut oil. And a lot of people have seen significant benefit. And again, that coconut oil is going to help to nourish the healthy bacteria. And that's what you want to do. You want to make sure that you're nourishing the healthy bacteria.
Okay, that's good. But they need to spit it out.
Oh, yeah. You don't ever want to swallow it after all that. No.
Because all you're doing is taking the bacteria down into your system.
And that's like if you use an oral probiotic too. You know, a lot of people say, well, I use a probiotic for my gut. Can I just open the capsule and put it in my mouth? No, because the majority of bacteria aren't in the mouth are not exactly the same as your gut bacteria. And so there are specific oral probiotic products that are out there. And some of them are very, very good. But usually what you do is you take one or two of the tabs, let it dissolve, swish it around, keep it in your mouth for at least 30 seconds to a minute, but then spit it out. You don't want to be swallowing those probiotics.
Okay, and where can they find those oral probiotics?
Well, there are several different places, and I'm not sure I can name specific ones. Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the one I use two different ones. The one I use primarily is Boca, B-O-C-A, and you can get that online. They have a nice line of toothpaste and a nice line of oral probiotics. Okay. Dr. O'Malley's Oral Health. Many people get that from Amazon. What I recommend for people who want an oral probiotic is to get one that has more than one strain. I do believe, just like with the gut, a singular strain of probiotic is not the best way to go. So I would just make sure that if you're going to use an oral probiotic, that you get one that has multiple strains.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, I have another question. I don't think it was written very well, but can the public read the studies, or do you have to be in the field?
Okay, no, absolutely not. Whatever your search engine is, I recommend that you go out and you search things like Alzheimer's disease and mouth bacteria,
Okay.
cardiovascular disease and mouth bacteria. That will probably get you to many of the studies that are out there. To do a real deep dive, you just have to go down the rabbit hole, if you will. You know, they all have a bibliography at the end, and you can find other studies and other articles that are written. And that's what this particular article was written from. And as you do that and go down that rabbit hole, you find out a whole lot more than you probably ever wanted to know. But no, these things are all available to the public. There are various different websites that are out there. Ask the Dentist is one that's out there. And this guy, I really like him a lot. I apologize, I cannot remember his name, but he's done a lot of research into the oral microbiome. And I don't necessarily agree with everything that he says out there, but he has done a lot of research. And people say, okay, so I go to my dentist. He doesn't know anything about the oral microbiome. He doesn't know anything. Help me out. What do I do? Well, what you need to do is, if they don't know and if they're not willing to find out, you need to change your dentist. You need to find a biological dentist or a functional dentist, someone who recognizes and understands that there's a link between the oral microbiome and the rest of the health of your body. And so, we still have those dentists that want to see you once every 3 months or once every 6 months, get you in here for a cleaning. We're going to do a fluoride treatment. We're going to do all of those things. And we're going to make sure that you're killing all the bacteria in your mouth. That's not what we want to do. That is not what we want to do.
No, it isn't. So, I just recently had a dental checkup, and there was a new hygienist, and she went to town.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, and it did make me sore, but I recovered. But sometimes when you're disrupting so many things, like you said in some of your lectures, it's opening up those bacteria to go into, when you bleed, it's obviously opening up bacteria to go into your mouth and go to the different body systems, as you mentioned before.
Right.
So
for a long time, the rule of thumb was, if you were going to have any dental work at all and you had a joint replacement, for example, that you do prophylactic antibiotics. Do antibiotics ahead of time, because they knew when they were going to be doing your cleanings that they were going to be driving bacteria into the vascular system. Okay. When you look at the structure of the teeth in the mouth, your vascular system comes up and feeds all your gums and teeth. So you have to recognize and understand that bacteria can easily get into the vascular system. That's not the rule of thumb anymore, interestingly enough. And it's because we overuse antibiotics.
Yes.
So now, generally across the board, the recommendation is, if you're going to go in for a cleaning or any type of dental work, you do a prophylactic antibiotic if you are over the age of 65 and if you have a cardiac history.
Okay, and I would highly recommend.
I don't necessarily agree with that either. I'm over the age of 65. I do not do prophylactic antibiotics.
But if people are willing to take it, I would highly recommend that they utilize a product like the Beta RY 500, which is the beta-glucan.
Yeah, the beta-glucan products, colloidal silver products. Yeah.
Yeah, it just helps, it helps during that process for you to recover your gut and everything else faster. So I just, it's been a miracle worker for me. I really love that product. Now, when it comes to, we talked about how to maintain a healthy oral microbiome with using the probiotics. And you don't want people to brush too hard so their gums bleed, but how long do you recommend people to brush their teeth and do floss?
I recommend, for me, the standard rule of thumb is to brush your teeth for at least 90 seconds. Okay. Now, what I recommend is not to use a hard bristle brush, to use a soft bristle brush. Okay. I personally think that an electric toothbrush is the best way to go. And the majority of the electric toothbrushes make brushing so easy because if you just will watch a little video and learn how to brush with an electric toothbrush, it signals you every time you need to move to the next station, if you will, and it turns itself off when the time is done. So I think it's like a great way to go in terms of teaching kids, especially how to brush their teeth. But the bottom line is you should brush your teeth twice a day. Some people say, oh, I brush my teeth after every meal. If you're doing that, you're killing off more bacteria than you need to kill off. You should brush your teeth, brush and floss twice a day. Now, the other really important thing to remember is if you are someone who is perhaps doing a juice cleanse, remember that juices are very high in acid. And because of that, if you're doing a juice cleanse, don't brush your teeth right away after drinking that juice, because the acid in the juice is already impacting your enamel in a negative way. Now you're going to brush your teeth on top of that, which actually also impacts the enamel. So if you're someone who is doing juice cleansing, make sure that you wait at least an hour after you do that juice. If you're someone who eats a lot of fruit, that's great if you eat fruit and if your body can tolerate fruit. Just remember, there's a lot of acid in fruit. And so if you're going to do that, make sure you wait a little while, allow the saliva to build back up, allow the natural barriers to build back up before you go and brush your teeth. If you happen to have bulimia and you are self-inducing vomiting, again, remember that hydrochloric acid is damaging the enamel on the teeth. Don't go and brush your teeth right after that experience.
That makes a lot of sense. So would they kind of swish water in their mouth and spit it out,
or sodium bicarbonate? Anything like that that's going to help to neutralize all that acid. A lot of people will use a sodium bicarbonate rinse afterwards, and that's good because it helps to neutralize the acid. But just keep in mind that when you're eating fruit or drinking fruit juice, that you are in fact causing damage to the enamel to a degree, not significant damage, but to a degree. But don't brush on top of it because that just compounds the issue.
Now, what hydrogen? There's a lot of hydrogen water out there that's kind of infused into the water. Would that be a good source too?
Well, a lot of people recommend that. A lot of people say that that's a great way to go. I am one of those people that I firmly believe that our bodies will help to self-regulate as long as we are doing what's necessary to keep them healthy. So how do I keep my mouth microbiome healthy? Well, as I said in the beginning, I start with diet. Always start with diet. Floss and brush twice a day. Again, don't use a hard bristle brush. I also say limit the amount of fluoride. A lot of people think that we have to fluoride everything. I personally don't believe that, and I believe that fluoride is in fact a toxin. I know that my dentist, for example, won't even use fluoride in the office. Now, some dentists still feel like, well, you have to have fluoride. There are many countries that don't use fluoride, that don't have cavities and tooth problems. The majority of cavities we find happen as a result of unhealthy bacteria that's allowed to overgrow.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily believe that we need to do that all the time. Okay. Also, just make sure you're checking the ingredients on the label if you're using a mouthwash. I don't use mouthwash. I haven't used mouthwash for many, many years. I don't recommend that people use mouthwash. If you are brushing, flossing, and using an oral probiotic, you shouldn't have to worry about bad breath. But if you are someone who wants to use a mouthwash, just make sure you're checking the ingredients and make sure that your mouthwash does not contain alcohol, does not contain chlorhexidine, doesn't contain any of those things that are going to kill off the bacteria in your mouth. One other really important thing, and I don't want to forget to mention this, one of the things that has been learned is with respect to nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is very important. Nitric oxide is getting a lot of press. We hear about beets and beet juice, and everybody needs to boost their nitric oxide. It's so powerful and beneficial for the cardiovascular system. It's also very beneficial for brain function. They don't spend a lot of time talking about that. Everything is the cardiovascular system, okay? But anyway, one of the things that we know is there are two systems in the body whereby we can take nitrates, healthy nitrates from the foods that we're eating, break them down into nitric oxide. And one of those systems is a system whereby bacteria that live in the mouth, deep in the crypts of the tongue, are responsible for creating an enzyme that starts that reaction, an enzyme that breaks down nitrates to nitrites to nitric oxide. If you're using an antibacterial mouthwash and you're killing off all of that bacteria, your only other system, which is a system whereby, again, the body normally breaks down nitrates into nitric oxide, as you get older, that system's not functioning quite as well. So your body is dependent on these good bacteria deep in the crypts of the tongue, creating this enzyme. And the research around that is very fascinating with respect to high blood pressure. And what they actually showed is that people who use antibacterial mouthwashes have a tendency to have higher blood pressure. And in the research that they did, they stopped using those antibacterial mouthwashes for 5 days, and the blood pressure started to return to normal. Again, it's because of nitric oxide. And so, the more we learn, the more we realize, the more we don't know. And so for me, this was fascinating research because it shows once again that there is a reason for some of these bacteria. They do specific jobs. Another thing that I want to mention is, people sometimes smoke. Smoking is not good. Smoking is not healthy. Smoking will decrease the oxygen that's necessary to help keep the teeth and gums healthy, okay? So you're decreasing the oxygen if you're smoking. Well, people say, well, I don't smoke cigarettes, I vape. Vaping is just as bad in terms of decreasing that oxygen in the system. So vaping or smoking, either one, just don't do it. I mean, or if you're going to do it, just realize that you're probably not going to be healthy. And not only because you're breathing smoke into your lungs, but because you're disrupting the microbiome of the mouth.
That's a really good point. Really good point. And I just love everything that you shared today. And I know you have an offer for our audience. Could you just give us a brief description of your book and where they can get it?
Sure. The easiest way to get it is to go out to my website, and my website is posted right there, drjconaway.com. What I did when I wrote this book, I had, for me, the whole field of the microbiome and the gut microbiome was relatively new. And so when I first started to learn about it, I wanted to shout it from every mountain. When I started to learn just how important the gut microbiome was, I wanted everybody to know about it. And so what I did when I was finishing my ND degree, instead of doing a dissertation, I submitted the transcript and asked if I could write the book instead. And the answer to that was yes. So that's how I finished my degree. But I talked about the impact of the gut microbiome on digestive system issues and how they link to all other systems of the body. And in the book, I specifically talk about immunity and hormonal issues, because at the time for me, that was something that I had a lot of research and understanding about, and I wanted to, especially the hormones, because I had studied hormones for so many years, I wanted to see if there was a link, and there is a link. And so that's kind of what the book is all about, linking digestive issues to immunity and hormonal issues.
Yeah, and I've learned so much from it, and I know everybody is going to learn a lot from it as well. So I really appreciate that you wrote the book.
Well, I'm working on the next one. I just have to keep going. I just have to
Yeah,
keep getting it done. But,
and
the other one, and you mentioned it in your opening, there's a significant gut-brain connection. Okay. And so the
Mhm.
gut-brain connection, in my opinion, is critically important for people to understand as well. So
Okay. Well, thank you for being on my show, and I'm going to have you back. So be ready.
sounds good.
Could you stick around for closing remarks while I wrap up my
Sure.
portion of the show? Thank you.
Absolutely.
So remember, I do revitalize your health in many areas. And I also help you with mental clarity by correcting your gut. Okay. So I guide you to clean, toxic-free foods, high quality nutritional supplements will help reduce symptoms. You'll feel better, be more productive, and maybe even release some weight. And it will uplift your mood. Now, my mindset coaching helps you release stress, reduce emotions, and entanglements from the past. So you're pretty much it's going to happen is you're going to enhance your mindset. And if you use me for health as well, you'll be also making your body more efficient. So if you want to ask me about my programs, go to my consultation button of my link tree, which is Debi, DebiChanges, LIV as in Victor ES.com/linktree, LINKTREE. And when you do that, you get to know me, I get to know you, and I'll guide you to optimal health. And on this site, you'll also see my programs and services, and these are only 3. I have more. Take Your Body Back is a 12-week weight release mindset coaching program where you're going to utilize an avatar board to drive you to your success. All coaching is done on Zoom because the first one's private to you. We go over your health. You can choose between 2 different meal plans. I give you directions on one, and I give you instructions on how to create a new version of you. They'll drive you with emotion and passion so you will achieve your goals for your health and weight transformation throughout your journey. All the other coaching, whether it's in group or private, will be celebrating your wins. Also, I'll be giving you health and mindset tips to get you over your gaps. So you will become a new person. So if you want more details on this program, go to my Holistic Self-Love episode on my link tree, but you select the show button. And Why Fast is that intermittent fasting program that gets your cells and body humming and in turn boosts your metabolism with rich nutrition and essential nutrients and exercises and recipes. Here you would ask me questions. If you need some guidance, I have smaller programs. Coaching programs are 2 or 4 week programs to get your feet wet. I also offer coaching for optimizing your health and mindset coaching in small programs like this, or longer programs if you need more assistance. And it's actually cheaper to buy the bigger packages. Then my services, I have several of them, and 2 of them are body scans, but I prefer to do the ZytoLink scan because I can do it remotely, internationally, and recently I sent one to South Africa. ZytoLink is a transdermal optical imaging app that I send you a link to your phone, and it's going to scan your face. It's only looking for blood flow for components of emotional, functional, and energetic in different body systems and lifestyles. It generates a wellness report, not a diagnosis, of biomarkers out of range and products and services that bring it back into range. And and then I review it with you. It's quite intensive. The cost of the scan is $50. If you move forward with any programs or products, I'll give you a $25 discount on one of them. The ZytoLink is already a package of 5 for a price of 4. You save $50. And you could look up transdermal optical imaging on pubmed.gov. People are really amazed what their body tells them from the scan, and you'll be too. And for a limited time, I'm offering Debi's coaching chats, which is actually a complimentary coaching session in an intimate group setting. It's not recorded, and a survey will pick the topics. You will learn how to optimize your health, ways to release stress and emotions, efficiently release weight, creating a winning mindset, how to harmonize hormone for body balance, and how to use your winning mindset through your health and weight transformation, and how to create that avatar board that will drive you with emotion and passion to achieve your health and weight transformational goals. This is on Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. You need to be registered for it at Debi Changes Lives, DebiChanges LIV as in Victor ES.com, this time /chats, CHTS. And when you do that, you get to know what my coaching is all about. Finally, learn more about alternative health programs, products, and services, upcoming promos, events, and shows. And I give you a gift, a 30-day Health and Mindset Daily Action Journal, where you can record your gratitude, thoughts, feelings, emotions, the food that you ate, the water you drank, the nutritional products you took, and the exercise you've done on a daily basis. You can even track your measurements. Plus, you can also review it on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, celebrate your wins, and find your gaps. If you need me to help you through your gaps, you contact me for coaching. This is a great health and wellness tool. I'm certain that you found this show educational and informative and enjoyed it. Reach out to me for my programs, products, and services, and reach out to Dr. Joanne Conaway for her book, Why America's So Sick. Hopefully we have some time for a closing remark for Dr. Joanne Conaway. If not, great.
I just want to say thank you so much. And I've been having a great time doing this and look forward to coming back again.
I'd love to have you back. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Continue to enjoy my radio and TV show, Debi Changes Lives, on Thursdays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, where your holistic journey begins.